Welcome to the Three Old Goalies podcast special World Cup recap episode. I'm Ryan Sparks, aka Touched Artist. As always, the Three Old Goalies podcast is not meant for goalkeepers under the age of 17. Listener and viewer discretion is advised, because let's be real, I have no idea what is going to actually be said after this scripted opening. I cannot guess what's going to be said from my mouth, everybody else that's on the show, not for those young ears. So put on the earmuffs, parents. Make sure that you're keeping an eye out for that. You know, I'm sure there's bound to be a bomb or two throughout the night. But tonight's special recap episode is brought to you by the Squad with a W, because everybody loves a W. Be sure to check them out at the Squad, SQWAD.com. Music for the show, most of the music for the show, I guess I should say tonight, is provided by the Floodgate Operators. Be sure to check out their new album that dropped on Spotify over the course of the last couple months. Great bluegrass music from the Floodgate Operators. And with that, let's welcome our co-hosts, Bone and EV. What is up, gentlemen? How are we doing tonight?
Good, Ryan. How are you, man?
Good. I'm excited. We've never done a live show.
I know. This is going to be good.
You say it's going to be good. It could not be. We don't know.
Well, no, it'll be memorable. Most things that are memorable are good, so we're going with that.
Well, welcome to the show, gentlemen. Thanks for gracing me with your presence this evening. And we have another special member of the Three Old Goalies with us, and I have to introduce him this way. And we will probably get hit with a copyright notice for this, so it is what it is, but it's worth it. Boa, welcome back to the show, my friend. Welcome.
Ryan, nice to meet you.
So,
charter member of the Three Old Goalies, Ryan, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I'm Boa.
And the only part, what do you call it? Cyborg now member, officially a cyborg.
Hey, whatever keeps it ticking, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
To go with EV's shoulders and knees and Bone, whatever you have that's fake. Yeah. But it's a PG
whatever
show.
Bone has that's fake.
Brand new on the inside, baby.
Well, glad you could join us. Before we jump into our World Cup discussion, I want to introduce our guest. I want to congratulate all the college soccer champions for 2022. We haven't done a show since the college championships took place. We'll start with the ladies first. D1, the UCLA Bruins. D2, Western Washington. D3 was Johns Hopkins University. And NAIA was Spring Arbor there in Michigan. The men's champions, much to my chagrin, the Syracuse Orange won the D1 men's championship. Franklin Pierce won D2. Huge news out of the University of Chicago as they won D3 with a female coach. So hats off.
All right.
And then NAIA was Bethel out of Indiana. So I'm going to turn it over to EV here as he introduced our guest this evening, and we'll get underway on this World Cup discussion.
Okay, Ryan. Well, thank you. We'd like to bring in. I told him earlier today. I said you're now an old goalie, although he's not as old as the rest of us, obviously. But Gregg Berhalter, who now lives in Cincinnati, this is a young man who we've all known for many years. He was a very accomplished goalkeeper. Played at University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Transferred to University of Kentucky, was all conference there, was, I believe, an All-American there, and had a cup of coffee with the Chicago Fire, and then went into the law enforcement business where he spent a year, and then went into the medical industry and is now vice president of procurement and mergers and acquisitions for Mercy Hospital based in Cincinnati. Anyway, we're thrilled to have him, Gregg Berhalter.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I appreciate it.
All right, welcome. Now you have officially, son, you are now an old goalie. So welcome to put your hand over your heart and welcome to the club. So
I am officially old. Amy told me that a little while ago, so I'm very pumped.
If you hold a record from the early 2000s, you graduate to old, I think
that's probably true.
Is that it? Like,
yeah, and you were rolling through the national championship, and I was like, oh great, Kentucky was the number 1 overall seed and lost to Pitt. So
hey,
first time
I saw Pitt play multiple games this year. They were not a bad team.
Oh no, they won the game.
They're a very, very good team. So I know it was disappointing for the University of Kentucky, but watching Pitt play this year was definitely a highlight of the college season for me. So,
thanks, Ryan. Evie, thanks for the intro. I look forward to talking to you guys. And Bose and Bone, it's good to see you guys as always.
Of course it is.
Speaking of Pitt, here is an interesting trivia point. Okay. What famous goalkeeper's kid plays at Pitt for Jay Vidovich?
Currently?
Not you, Braber. You were the one that said this. Currently.
Can you narrow that down? What family tree the goalkeeper's from?
The family tree that the goalkeeper is from is from Ajax, which is a pretty good tree.
Van der Sar?
It is Van der Sar.
Van der Sar's son is at Pitt.
Joe, right?
I don't know what his name. What's his name, Greg? You know?
I don't remember. I just saw Van der Sar and was like, I think Houston, we've got a problem tonight.
No.
It is Joe. He's a senior.
Yeah.
Klinsman's kid played for Kevin Grimes at Berkeley years ago.
Yeah, not. But imagine if you're the goalkeeper coach at Pitt. Any pressure? Nah. No worries. I got Van der Sar's kid. Jeez.
Training's closed to parents. No, thank you.
Yeah. So.
All right, gentlemen, let's dive into this World Cup conversation. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say about some of this stuff. I know some of these games were forever ago at this point, so hard to tell. But Paul Somerville's watching live with us on YouTube, and he hit us with the Van der Sar. Knew it.
Good job, Paul.
So nice job, Paul.
He works for me, so it's a little heavy-handed.
Well,
okay.
I mean,
you mean he cheated?
He already had the inside scoop. It's all that.
Exactly.
All right, hey Ryan, I'm going to jump in and sort of go over the groups.
All right,
and I'm going to go over the groups and sort of get everyone's. Even though we know the results, sort of what you picked and who you thought. So I think that maybe we can start at the foundation and then go from there. So the Group A was Netherlands.
Opposite of the way MLS was built.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, sorry.
We already started.
Go ahead.
We're not even 10 minutes into the show, and we're shots fired.
TV.
First MLS dagger of the night.
Yes. Group A was the Netherlands, Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar. I personally had the Netherlands and Senegal going out as the group to the next round. Did anyone differ from that?
Not I.
I picked Ecuador and Holland.
You had Ecuador and Holland?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought Ecuador was going to make it out as well, but I was okay that Senegal made it out.
Oh, totally.
I was super excited to see Qatar, but that's just me.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm with you. Did they score?
They had a penalty, didn't they?
They had a penalty. Yeah, they scored one goal, I think, right?
They scored a penalty. They scored a goal and a penalty, and they were abysmal. So good.
Yeah. It only cost them like a tanker of oil.
Okay.
Ooh. All right.
All right. I like that. He's back. He's back. All right. So Group B, England, USA, Iran, Wales. I definitely had us going through. I had England going through. I didn't think it would be sort of this rough, but nevertheless, we got through. Anyone else thoughts that differ?
I had Iran.
Oh, and why so?
What?
And why so?
Better players, better coach, better economy, better civil rights record. A lot of reasons. Are there? I just, I think that a lot of people forgot or never knew that the United States barely qualified for this tournament. So that was kind of what I based things on in the first round, and we got through. And go USA! That's great.
I'll take a swing though at Boa here. We barely qualified for the tournament, but the team wasn't built to really get through CONCACAF. The goal was to try to compete at the World Cup, right?
So
we just need to qualify. We just need to qualify and get a shot.
We just need to qualify. Plus,
right?
We were the youngest group there, right? Am I right, Ryan?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
all right.
The biggest thing I didn't think the U.S. was going to get through either. And Greg, we've talked about this previously.
Oh.
I thought that Wales was going to surprise some teams and surprise some people, and I think they did in reality, but it was the wrong direction. I really thought that Wales was going to come out of this group with England. I did not expect the U.S. to put up any wins in the group going in. I just didn't have faith with as young of a team, and I guess with some of the guys that they brought. I mean, when they announced that Jordan Morris was on this roster, I about lost my mind. And I think, Greg, you were the first person I texted when that roster came out, and I was like, oh my God, what? Like, I could probably put in more minutes than Jordan Morris.
Oh,
I don't think that he deserved to be on the roster. I think there were other guys that they could have taken. And when he got subbed in that first game, I about lost it. So, anybody else have any other ones? Any comments in this one? I know we'll talk a lot about the U.S. long term, but
what scared me about Iran is their qualifying is a meat grinder. I mean, that qualifying is a bloodbath. Yeah. And so you've got a bunch of young kids, and that being the last game scared me more than anything. Iran being the first game would have been best.
Yep.
Because that is an unequivocal meat grinder. And then if the draw with Wales, not too unexpected, silly fouls, but I thought the U.S. would get through. I did not think it would be as hard as it was, but to your point, Ryan, the roster was constructed in a manner that I don't really quite understand some of the selections, but that's okay.
But we could have still drawn the last game and gone through, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
no,
it's not like it was really.
No.
Yeah.
They had to win.
We had to win. Okay.
Well, we had to win. Okay, I didn't know.
Iran would have had 4.
Iran would have had 4 points, and we would have only had 3.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay. Well,
Iran just had to win, or just had to tie.
2.
That's right. Okay, there we go.
All right. Group C: Argentina, Poland, Mexico, Saudi Arabia. This is the first group I feel where a traditional country did not get through, as in Mexico. I definitely thought they were going to get through with Argentina. It was very exciting on the last day to see this whole group shake out. Obviously, because Mexico doesn't get through, their head coach gets fired, which is normal for them. And rightfully so. This generation, in my opinion, of the Mexican players coming through is just not what it used to be. And, maybe they're doing some things with their youth right now to quote unquote revamp that. So, by the way, Dave Wolf, shout out to you at Westmont College. Just FYI, in case you don't know where that is, it's in lovely Santa Barbara NAI school. Happy holidays, Dave. All right, so thoughts on this group, everybody?
I picked Mexico to go through with Argentina. And the reason they fired their coach is because that's what nations that actually care about football do. So Mexico, I believe, and Ryan, you'll know this better than me, but I think that was the first time they hadn't gone to the final 16 since 78 or 82 or something.
I can look it up, but I think
So Mexico is the Brazil of CONCACAF, right? Boom. So, but they did play a 40-year-old goalkeeper. They had a 36-year-old defender. So as Bones said, they weren't exactly the old Hugo Sanchez Mexican.
Yeah, but their 40-year-old goalkeeper only shows up for the World Cup.
Yeah, correct.
Like he played phenomenally.
Correct.
Like,
he's going to go play in Europe, right, Ryan? He's going to go play in Europe.
yeah,
Right?
I don't like. We can take stabs at Mexico for multiple things. I'm gonna throw it. Goalkeeping is not one of them.
He's the Tom Brady of soccer.
Yes, yeah. Like every time a new FIFA comes out, I look just to see if he's still in the game because I don't even know where he's playing.
Yep.
Like I legitimately have.
Yeah,
which is why I don't know where he's playing because I don't care. Like
he's on the same team as that Morris kid, I guess. I don't know who that is.
The Morris kid occasionally scores when he comes in late. I believe that's what Berhalter had in mind.
He's sneaky. He is sneaky.
Yes.
In the box. He puts a toe on it every once in a while.
That's the problem. He puts a toe on it. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, but he gets those crazy goals that you least expect. And I think, well, let's put it this way. I think when they put Jordan Morris in, it's like a hope and a prayer. It's like a Hail Mary in football, right? It's like let's get it. Let's try this. You know.
So to answer the question of when was the last time that Mexico didn't, it would have been the 1990. It says they have qualified for the round of 16 at every World Cup since 1994.
Wow, they were here?
Yes, they were. Yeah.
90, 86.
Yeah.
Wow.
90 was Italy, 94 USA. Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the last day.
Anyone surprised by how Poland did?
I wasn't.
Not really. I think
No.
It's like
they got one player. At the end of the day, they've got a guy that can just play, and I thought Mexico.
They got a guy that can just score.
Right.
Yeah.
And they missed a penalty.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did. Yep. All right, Group D. I thought this was sort of a toss-up after we talked about France, Australia, Tunisia, and Denmark. I personally thought Denmark would do it, and that did not happen. But I thought Australia played very well to get through, and obviously France just came out and definitely had their foot on the pedal and took care of business.
If you had told me before the tournament that Australia was going to come out of that group with 6 points, I'd have called you a liar.
Yeah, there's no way. I agree.
Yeah, I think Denmark got caught up in the whole political action thing, and I think it took away from their game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, in watching the early games, France was terrifying. I mean, even he and I talked about
they were electrifying, right?
And I was telling I was like, there's 3 good teams in this tournament right now, and this is after Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia. They were terrifying out of the gate, and I was like, they're going to be tough to beat. So that group was impressive, to put it mildly, that Australia could even get through. I did not see that coming personally.
Who did you have, Greg? Who did you have getting out of that group besides France?
Honestly, I would have thought Denmark would have.
Okay.
I didn't see Tunisia doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
And Australia tends to crumple a little bit in big moments. So I thought they'd sneak in on goal differential. So
how about you, John Boa?
I can't believe that anyone would not pick anyone other than France and Denmark to get out of this group. I mean, Denmark is, got big time pros since forever. I mean, they've been in these tournaments. They got, Eriksson with half a ticker out there running around. I think the African continent in general surprised everyone, but I can't name any players from Tunis. And as far as Australia goes, I mean, they're the same as Canada. If they're on song, they're going to beat you. But Canada wasn't. And that was the difference. They're the same type of team. Go forward and be organized. So Denmark, I think, was like an 89% chance of going to the round of 16 or something.
Yeah. How about you, EB?
I was in the same boat that Boa is. I thought it was France and Denmark, hands down. After seeing France play in the first 2 games, oof. That was like a change the channel moment, because okay, we know who's going to win the World Cup. So is there something else to watch? Because they were so good. But
Let's talk about the Denmark disappointment just a little bit more. I'm going to rattle off teams that their players play for, and then you tell me how they lose the way they did. All right.
Columbus Crew.
If it was the Crew, I could answer it. That would be why they lost, because it's the Crew. No. Nice, AC Milan, Crystal Palace, Atalanta, Barcelona, Leeds United, Benfica, Brentford, Manchester United, Sevilla, Tottenham. There's the answer. But I mean, you can go through Copenhagen. Like, there's guys playing on real teams. There's not a single MLS player on their roster. EV, how do they fall apart?
It's amazing that they did fall apart. Well, that's the problem. They didn't have any MLSers on there, and you got to have an MLS guy, or your. I mean, Argentina did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. That just proves it.
Somebody in the MLS office is watching this right now and standing up and clapping for that one.
Yeah. Argentina's got an MLS guy. That's what they want.
Thanks for the cup of coffee. You could have let it get cold before you kicked me out. Whatever. No big deal. I'm not...
Yep. All right. Group E, which is the second group that had another traditional power not make it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Japan, Spain, Germany, Costa Rica. I think everyone on this panel would have Spain and Germany getting through. What a disappointment with Germany. I think the biggest letdown was Neuer. Just had a horrible World Cup. But hats off to Japan, right? When they had to get through, they played and got the result to get 6. Because whoever thought they would win 2 games?
Well, I mean, it's not just 2 games, is it? They beat Spain and Germany in a week.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Brazil, you don't want to play them in the first round. That group.
Yeah, they're so disciplined.
So disciplined.
So smart. And if you look at that result combined with Saudi Arabia, it's 2 of the largest upsets you've seen early on in a long time.
But they work hard and they know their roles. And it's, I know we don't believe in that in this country, but it will, win games for you if you know what your job is and you run. It's really tough to break people down like that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. In typical Japanese fashion, they looked at the problem, they sorted the problem, they figured out how to beat the problem, and then went out and did it.
They out-Germaned the Germans.
And I don't understand why that formula is so difficult for us to grasp. I don't get it, but that's another episode.
How many?
It's top down, not bottom up, right? It's a different philosophy.
Yeah,
and it started 15, 20 years ago, right? When they decided that they wanted to be good at soccer, they looked at the problem and figured out how to do it. And sure enough, I'm sorry, guys, we can say what we want. Does the United States ever beat Spain or Germany in a World Cup ever? No.
A row? Never.
No.
How many DA players does Japan have on their roster?
Yeah, exactly. So,
and they're fun to watch, right?
Yes.
Oh, dude, the creativity on the ball, and off the ball. Honestly,
everything you want out of your players, right?
Yeah.
Come from behind, play to the last minute.
Yeah, and their women's team is the same way. Right?
They're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, so somewhere, I don't know, maybe it's me. Somewhere there is a federation that gets it.
Well, I think part of it too is I think the circumstances play in their favor, right? They're disciplined, they play as a team, they're always together, and with the shifting of the timing and with the club bunching right up into it, a team like that's ready to go. I mean, they already know what they're doing; they don't have to figure it out. They have a system and a process and a governing body, quite frankly, that is running things the right way.
And they were probably scared shitless too, which doesn't ever hurt, right? If you think you're going to get fucking killed on global television by teams that have won 5 World Cups and 6 European championships, and you have Real Madrid and Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Yeah. You think you're going to get, that kind of helps you say, okay, coach.
Right. Right.
Well, also you're kind of playing with house money, right?
Yes.
Honestly, you're going into this World Cup essentially looking at this group going, we're not getting out.
Absolutely.
So let's just go into this and put it all on the line and just play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I think sometimes teams that do that end up winning groups like Japan did. They had nothing to play, like basically nothing to lose, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. But they went in with, we talked about our roster being built to compete in the World Cup. Okay, great. Their roster was obviously built to win in the World Cup. And they did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Group F, another surprise. They had Morocco, Croatia, Belgium, and Canada. I personally had Belgium and Croatia going through. I thought Canada would do better, at least get a result.
Yes.
Obviously, Morocco, I think, surprised a lot of people, especially getting 7 points. To really, I think, make the Belgium disappointment even more large, because Belgium, you just wonder, what happened to them along with Germany. And Morocco just stepped it up. Sort of was like Japan, they had a little luck. They worked real hard. They were very organized. And, Croatia, I just think, was solid the whole tournament. What about you, John Boa?
Belgium,
Did you have
Croatia.
Morocco? Who did you have coming out of this group?
100% Belgium and Croatia. I 100%. And, Canada, I'm with you. I was very impressed with Canada, as we all were during the qualifiers, because they got an English coach. He's 5'0". So you got the Napoleon thing going on. You got them beating the U.S. and Mexico going on. They're all going the same direction. It's not pretty, but they won games, right? So I thought they would, but they didn't have that little extra, and they didn't have some luck. And then there times they got exposed for being bad. And then at other times they got exposed for just not being professionally fit. You can really see it like in the middle of halves. They kind of go to the shorts like the NBA guys do. So, they could have done better. They could have stolen 3 points, but they wouldn't have gotten out of the group. But, yeah, Croatia went to the final last year, and we saw what they did last time. And Belgium obviously has De Bruyne, and, there you have it. So that was hugely weird to me.
Yeah, how about you, EV?
I, of course, picked Belgium and Croatia to go out of the group. I was surprised. I was kind of worried. Remember the first Belgium game when Courtois had to come up big like 6 times?
A lot.
Yeah. And, it seems to me that anytime your goalkeeper has to do that, you're in a little bit of trouble. And particularly in a group game. So, but they just seem to, what they reminded me of? Remember the old Dutch teams of the
70s and 80s, yeah.
Who were great on paper and,
Yep.
but then they'd get into the tournament and they'd be sniping at each other and everything, and they just kind of fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah, Courtois is a big game goalkeeper, though, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But we're all surprised that Morocco got through based on the conversation, right?
Okay.
But we know now that they continued on, right? So, it's a really big surprise to see them get out of this group, but they continued to play well beyond group play.
Yes.
And they played, in my mind, one of the best games of the tournament later on, and we can talk about that later. But I felt like they played extremely well against Portugal.
Yeah, I thought Morocco was a case study in defensive organization throughout the tournament. And they were solid, and I think in group play they gave up 1 goal and it was an own goal. Is that right? Was that the team that did that?
They gave up 1 goal to Canada.
Yeah, and it was an own goal. And just why? If you're a fan that likes defending, which I do, it was fun to watch that. It was a boring game, perhaps, but it was fun to watch, the organization and everybody, again, like Japan, everybody knew their role, knew what they were supposed to do. Let's sit back, let's defend, and see if we can steal a goal.
And it's just another nail in the coffin of CONCACAF when we get to that segment of the show, isn't it? I mean, if you got the African countries doing so well and Asia doing so well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Gregg Berhalter, any surprise?
I mean, obviously, the golden age of Belgium, I think we can safely say, is over. It's a shame they didn't do more when they had an opportunity. Obviously, De Bruyne is amazing, but that was shocking. In Morocco, every player is hard as a coffin nail. 11 men behind the ball, and you had to run through them to get a win. And there's not one team that left the field that played them that said, okay, that was easy. They made everything hard. To E's point, they defend whole. And the goal that they had, and I can't remember who they were against, the guy had it and his head was above the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Portugal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was it against Portugal?
Yeah, that was the Portugal game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
you're right, Greg. He was incredibly up on that goal. You're right.
And they weren't necessarily tactically great, but they were smart in their roles. And they didn't push, they didn't press, they didn't do anything silly. I thought I was really impressed with them, to be honest with you. And I'm good for the African nations because we're starting to see this wave across the world where there's this balance of power that's shifting. And I think it's good for the game, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And they said, what was it?
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves with the African stuff in the next two groups, which is a good segue. Group G, which was Brazil, Switzerland, Cameroon, and Serbia. I think everyone had Brazil. I don't know who they had second. I had Cameroon. I agree with that comment about the African nations, getting better. And unfortunately, Cameroon couldn't get it done. I tell you, one of the best games to watch I felt in the first round was Serbia, Switzerland, 3-3 goal fest. I think they all came literally in the second half. And this is the first time, Ryan, you might want to check this out, that Brazil tied in a group. They didn't outright win it, but I don't have that info at my fingertips.
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah. All right. So John Boa, who'd you have as the second team?
I'm pretty sure I had Switzerland.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty
now,
sure.
Did you think they were going to break that? They usually in the World Cup or even in qualifying, they always they can't get that one win, right? Because that was a tie, and a loss or something.
Right.
Like that.
It's kind of like that, when they came in '94, that's when Ronaldo whacked that ball against them, right? So they had the same thing. We're going for a win, a tie, and a draw. But they just couldn't get it into first gear either. But they have some really good players. And, of course, the Serbia's got that kid that's up front scoring bucket loads of goals. He scored yesterday for Fulham. Big boy. Just an old school number 9.
Mitrovic.
Yeah. And so, I was almost picked them, but I didn't. I think I did pick the Swiss in retrospect. But, yeah, Brazil, I talk about somebody that the first couple of games you thought, holy shit. That was some swashbuckling. Good. It's just like a matter of time. So not real surprised there.
So quick stat for Brazil, not to answer Greg's question, but they haven't lost a group stage game since '98.
Okay.
Whoa.
They were beaten by Norway 2-1.
Okay.
And that's when Norway was really Red Route 1 too. In the 90s, it was popping up to the striker type of old English football. That's what.
Yeah. All right, Gregg Berhalter, what'd you think? Who did you have coming out?
I mean, I had Brazil, and I just thought anybody else could jump in, and that's kind of how. It gets back to my earlier statement. I put Brazil, Spain, and France in the same bucket that first week and a half, and was like, oh. That's the three teams that kind of separated themselves. And then as the tournament went on, obviously injuries kind of played a part. And then, quite frankly, the cream kind of rose to the top. But this group was kind of blah to me. I knew somebody would get through with Brazil, but I didn't have any questions about Brazil in this one, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right.
And they played, I think, did everybody realize? I know you guys all did, but if anyone else is listening, does they know that they changed their entire 11 for the third game in the group?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So there you go. I don't think Germany would do that, right? So they knew they were through. They just said, well, we'll put on 11 other millionaires and go out there and play.
Wow.
Oh.
So here's a question: how many teams could Brazil field in a World Cup and actually advance out of the first round? Not make damage, but how many teams do they actually field and get through?
4. I would say if you take, because there are people on their bench that could start on every other team in this
Roberto
tournament.
Firmino is third in the Premier League in goals and didn't make the team.
He didn't make the team.
Jesus.
Yeah. But to answer your question, Greg, I did get the stat. I found it. 1930, 1934, and 1966 are the only 3 times that Brazil did not advance out of the group stage.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. All right, EV, who'd you have in this one?
I had Brazil and Switzerland. I had Brazil and I had Switzerland because of Jan Sommer, who's a superb goalkeeper.
Okay, so all right, we go to Group H, which was Portugal, South Korea, Uruguay, Ghana. Sort of a toss-up. I think we would all, say Portugal. Again, I go back to the African nations comment. I had Ghana coming out of this. I think it could have been a toss-up, but and at the end, I think it was. South Korea squeaking over Uruguay. But I thought it was fun watching South Korea. If you got to watch them play, they were exciting at all times. You definitely knew when you played them that you had to be super aware of all their 1-2s because they would do that all over the place and quickly switch the ball. It was just really, really fun to watch. John Boa, who'd you have coming out?
That's a really good point about South Korea. Still organized, still worked hard, but they reminded me, to your point, Greg, about when people used to hate to play Princeton in basketball, and they would do that give and go backdoor back pass, and you would lose 43-42 to them in the Dean Dome. That's what it reminded me of, and they wouldn't go away. And then with FIFA doing this, okay, if you guys don't want to play, we're going to add on 20 minutes at the half. People were really paying it twice. Yeah, fair play to that, right? And I agree with you. And I picked them and the Uruguayans. So I think I made a list of teams that were kind of disappointed and teams that were very disappointed, which we'll get to later. But I think Uruguay would be one of the teams in this tournament that were kind of disappointed they didn't get to at least the final 16 with the firepower they got up front.
Yeah. John Danger Boa. I'm curious why the danger, but get into that later. But what are your thoughts on Ghana and Cameroon? You're on that.
I am ashamed. I will be the first to say this. Yeah. The only thing that I watch less than the MLS and CONCACAF is African football. And that's a disgrace because it's, the best players in the world are in France, in England. There's a few in Germany, right? And I wasn't surprised that they have 2 teams in the final 16 or 3? 2. And Morocco is one of the best teams in the tournament. So I'm ashamed. I know why I don't watch CONCACAF and MLS, but it's harder to watch African football. Our friend Mark Noonan actually was the commissioner of football in Ghana, EV.
That's right.
And it's still, it's quite a little unsettling. They have to leave in the middle of the night and all that stuff, but it's, another example of people doing it right. And again, they don't reinvent the wheel. If you're Morocco, you're going to the French Football Federation, say, give us your manuals and send your coaches over. How far is it from Spain and France? It's 8 miles, right? So,
yeah.
They're not trying to reinvent the 4-4-2. They're just going to Europeans and say, we got this lineage, we got this history, good or bad or ugly, with these folks, and we're going to get the Germans, we're going to get the French, and we're going to get the Spanish. And it pays off. But yeah, I wish I will be picking more of them. I can tell you that, because since 1990, we've been saying, right? Since Cameroon, this is going to happen. This is going to happen.
Well, I think Senegal too, taking France. They've got a history.
Yep.
Greg Raber, who did you have coming out of this?
Honestly, I'm shocked Uruguay lost.
Me too.
That's a strong team, and I would put that in the top couple most disappointing teams
Mhm.
to knock out early.
Did you think South Korea was going to get through, Greg?
No, I mean, I didn't. And that's probably me being naive, but they were disciplined, and Uruguay was far from disciplined. I mean, just it seemed very erratic at times. And Ghana, if it turns into a track meet and everybody gets on the outside and they can get an early lead, they can torture you. So I really thought Portugal and Uruguay were going to get through.
Well, the last game, anyone could have advanced out of this group, right? Wasn't that this group?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
EV, who did you have getting out?
I had Portugal and Uruguay getting out. I'm with you. I enjoyed watching South Korea play because again it was kind of it was South Korea reminded me of March Madness when you got that team that's not the Cinderella team,
Princeton.
right? Yeah, and everybody was pulling for them, and that part to me was fun. Speaking of our friend Mark Newman, Boa, he's now the commissioner of the pro leagues up in Canada.
Take off, eh?
Yeah, man. So, but yeah, that's what I was surprised, pleasantly surprised with South Korea. I was surprised. Uruguay reminded me of Belgium this tournament. They just kind of fell apart. They didn't, they needed Viagra.
I would call South Korea the St. Peter's of the tournament, and that's still hurt.
Yes.
We were safe.
You mean having gone to University of Kentucky? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that never comes up. It's
Okay.
fine. It doesn't. I'm totally not bitter.
Yeah. Okay.
Ryan, who did you have coming out of this?
So I had Ghana and Portugal.
Okay.
And the main reason I had Ghana was because I thought they could score some goals. I thought that athletically they were going to be one of the top teams. I thought they would come in super fit. They proved me right in the scoring goals. They scored 5. Unfortunately, when they needed to score 1, they couldn't. They lost that final game in the group stage to Uruguay, and they needed that win. And I believe they would have they might have advanced. I don't remember exactly how it all laid out. I know they all had to play through in that final game.
I think they were the 102nd minute drama. This was the one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they were like,
They were up.
Cool.
They were down 1 in the final match, and then they gave up 1 late.
Yeah.
But I thought that Ghana was going to sneak through. I am one of the very few people that will get caught watching African football. I've actually walked in. I've walked into Gregg's office someday and be like, "Did you see this?" And he's like, "What?" Like I saw when they had the issue at the African Cup of Nations with referees like ending matches early and just weird things going on over there. I think the increase in the quality of African football solely lies on the shoulders of 2010. The World Cup being played in South Africa was a huge boost for them. It also has to do with funding in education there, as far as the game is concerned. If there's a documentary, it's actually on the corruption of FIFA on Netflix. And they talk in the documentary about the coaching education and the education in Africa when Sepp Blatter took over FIFA. I think that makes a big difference. I also think the more people you have playing the game, the better you're going to be. And I think that's something that the African nations are doing right. They're just letting people play.
Yeah.
Like, again, not a single DA player on any of these teams.
No Escalades either.
Like, yeah, like we're like I know that I harp on it and everybody gets tired of hearing me talk about it. I think that's one thing that we do wrong here in the United States and I'm part of the problem. I'll admit I'm a paid coach now. I was a volunteer coach for 25 years though, before I finally took a paid coaching gig. Because I believe that every kid should have an opportunity to play and learn the game. And I think in these countries that you're seeing, like, that are making these big changes, and yes, some of them are putting more money towards it, but like, other than the US, Qatar probably put the most money in to try to show off and be part of this tournament, right? And they came in and got spanked. Like the countries that are just, kids are playing in the streets, they're having, they're learning the game, they're playing wherever. Those are the places that are showing up.
Yeah.
And you get into these world tournaments and you see these countries that you don't think are going to do anything, and then they're there on the last day of the group stage with a chance to get through.
All right, let's get into the round of 16. I don't know if you've got that up. Yep, good, thank you. So 8 games here, and if you really look at the matchups, out of 8 games, there was really only one upset, and that was Morocco over Spain. I thought there might have been another one. I really thought that Australia could give Argentina a good game. And matter of fact, they did. Martinez had to make a last-minute save toward the end of the game to keep that game from being 2-2. We'll talk about the Netherlands-USA last. I think the France-Poland game, France, again, just had their foot on the pedal. England, first half, they took care of things. Though Senegal had some chances, if you remember, early on. And if they would have put those chances away, who knows what this game would have turned out. Again, Japan-Croatia, I thought that was an exciting game to watch. That was one of the first games to go into PKs. The Brazil, South Korea game. I thought, even though score was 4-1, South Korea was in that game. And if you watch that game, you're like, they were just unlucky, and a lot of shots were saved by them. So it was a good showing by them in that round. And then, and we'll talk about Morocco, Spain here in a second. Portugal scoring 6 goals. What an embarrassment over Switzerland in that. And when we talk about the Morocco, Spain, we've talked about how organized. Spain had no clue on how to break them down. I mean, it was almost at times you're like, guys, you've been trying to do the same thing over and over and over, and they couldn't break them down at all.
Didn't it look like to you guys?
You heard Landon Donovan saying, these guys need to make vertical runs and things like that. And when they tried that, they got a little bit successful. I think when they played quickly on the width, they got around, but it was just too slow. And
way too slow.
Way too slow. Yeah. I think the Netherlands-USA game, obviously, we had a fantastic chance coming out of the gate. And, you get punished if you don't put things away at that level. And sure enough, that's what happened. You can't continue to keep pressing after you give up your first goal, and that's what, happened there. And it was almost like, I thought at times, men versus boys at times. Our goal,
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, our goal, if you look at it, I don't know if he could ever do that again, Haji Wright. But at least we didn't get shut out. So I'm gonna start with JB, John Boa. Thoughts, comments?
Well, danger comes from Austin Powers, A.
Thank you.
So this is the thing with Holland and the United States. I was listening to a show and somebody goes, well, Holland, for decades now, best team in the world, Johan Cruyff, blah, 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 Frank Rijkaard. I was remembering, EV, that story Mark Dodd told about they were playing Holland and somebody kicked like Van Basten or something, and all of a sudden he heard this freight train go by and it was Rijkaard to kick freaking John Parks into the 15th row. Anyway, but 30 years ago. But I had a few questions about this game. It was unfortunate it didn't go in early, but don't we always say that when we get to the round of 16, the round of 8? They just would have finished. I was watching Liverpool Aston Villa, imagine that, yesterday, and it was the same thing. The team with the quality usually wins the games. So, and we were not, after the first goal, you brought it up, Greg. You said, well, we were still pressing. Why? That's the time to take the air out of the ball a little bit and say, okay, it's just one. Let's not, it's like you tell a young goalkeeper, let's not let one bad goal become two. And that's exactly what we did. And they, by the way, they were identical. And by the way, they were outside backs doing that, which are really, they're wing backs. I get it. But, you know, not knowing where those guys are is a problem. You know, the third goal, I still don't know what was going on with that, with the far post thing. I don't know if the goalkeeper just assumed something, but it was, I mean, we were lucky to get that goal, right? I mean,
yes, we were. Yes, we were.
Yeah. So, again, I was listening to some show and they were like, well, you know, Holland is the best in the back and the best up front. And this guy's like, yeah, but the United States has one of the best midfields in the world. I mean, you can't, with an uneducated public and an uneducated federation, we don't have a clue. One of the best midfields in the world? I mean, we just don't get it. And we believe, maybe our players believe that. But, I mean, I don't know if we have the best midfield in the MLS playing in that game. So, I mean, yeah, I don't think there was any doubt they were going to win. I think the bookies picked them winning by 2 goals. It was not a big upset to me.
Eric Votter, EV. Any surprises here, EV, besides the Morocco, Spain? Did you think everything was going to come out like I said, or what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was surprised that Portugal hung 6 on Switzerland, but you know, we've all played in games where things just go south and you got to deal with it, and with
Ronaldo on the bench.
Yeah, and I think that was one of those games. Speaking of Portugal, I want to shout out to our boy Roland Paiva, who was supposed to join us tonight, but has been battling COVID, and evidently his whole family's got it. So, Roland, we're thinking of you and hoping for the best and all that, and we miss you. You know, let's get to the elephant in the room. I got 2 things to say about the U.S. game, okay? Boy band, Boys to Men, and, you know, it's like it was just – it was silly. It was silly. And, you know, you know, somewhere in the I've said this, well, Bone, you know, I've said this for 30 years, right? Somewhere in the United States is a kid who can wrap goals in. Okay. We don't know where he is. We don't really have any idea. He's evidently not in the DA. You know, and, you know, somewhere in the United States, probably Nebraska or West Virginia, is a kid with a goal in his backyard and like 3-point shooters in the NBA, white 3-point shooters in the NBA. That's what he spends his time doing. He's out there with the light on, shooting balls into the goal. Somewhere that kid is, okay? We have no idea where he is, okay? And until we find that kid, okay, and I know one of them plays for FC Cincinnati, and we didn't bring him.
Yeah.
Brandon,
right.
Brandon,
okay.
Vasquez.
Right. Until you say to the federation, midfield, you know, being touted as the best one of the best midfields in the world. Subtitles on that are they're young and they can run.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. It's ridiculous. Okay. Because no one, you know, it's the old thing like we used to talk about, you know, when I was coaching at Vanderbilt. Okay. Well, we had 70% of the possession and we lost 2-0. Okay. Because they don't keep score of possession.
Evie, let me ask you this. So Berhalter, you know, starts a forward who hadn't started in, you know, 2 games in Ferreira. What are your thoughts about that coaching move?
I mean, you know, like that's one of those. Remember in the Women's World Cup when I can't remember, Tim Ryan or whatever his name was, started Brianna Scurry instead of Hope Solo. That's one of those things where if you do that, it works, you're a genius. And if you do it and it doesn't work, you're an idiot. Right.
I think he was admitting they weren't better. They weren't better. When you do that, I think it's kind of a shockwave through your team.
Right. And, but, you know, and this is why I say boys to men. Okay. You're in by yourself, 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, and you shoot it into the goalkeeper. Okay. Okay, fine. We're young. Pups are going to pup. Right. But you expect that somebody who's really a goal scorer scores that goal. And then it's a different game. Okay. The other thing I took out of the Netherlands game was, I don't know if you guys thought this, but, maybe this was the coach in me, they put it on cruise control, right? They put it on cruise control till we scored by accident. And then it pissed them off. And they were like, well, fuck it. We'll go get a third goal. And they did it within a minute.
Yeah, the third goal was a disaster defense.
The third goal, the third goal was basic Tennessee Soccer Club. Don't go past the near post defending, and everybody, all 4 defenders and the goalkeeper were on one side of our goal. Okay, and the guy standing at the back post was the Dutch guy. It looked like Jamar Chase standing in the end zone after the safety's falling down, waving his hands, right? And funnily enough, Netherlands got him the ball. Imagine that! And he it's an R-rated show, so he drilled us. Let's put it that way. Okay.
As they say in Glasgow, it gave us a proper pumping.
Exactly.
Thank you for that interpretation.
Yeah. Now
John
the question is, do we learn from this as a federation and as a team? Right? Yes, we have some players who are light years better than they have been. Okay, that's great. Okay, but that's like a NASCAR team having the best engine in the world, but things aren't in the right place, so it doesn't run the way it's supposed to. And we're not. We haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten to the point yet where we feel comfortable. We're impudent enough to think that we can play with a team like that until we piss them off, right? And then and let's put it this way: Holland were wonderful hosts in that game, right? They didn't embarrass us when they could, but then when we pissed them off, when we caught them sneaking around our 14-year-old daughter, they got pissed off and drilled us.
Okay, thanks for the analogy there, Eugene.
Yeah.
Gregg Berhalter, try to follow that. Go ahead.
No, I mean, honestly, the guy in the back post ate a blintz, took off his boots, put on his clogs, and then got the score before anybody knew what happened. So
Exactly.
I think, I think it's just a young team. And the Dutch they're just smarter. They were opportunistic. Every chance they got, they freaking buried. And quite frankly, then they sat in and let us wear ourselves out. And then I honestly think the subs and the tinkering that Berhalter did, and go back to the Portugal game, you pull Ronaldo out, his replacement scores a hat trick. I think he tried to get a little cute there with Ferreira, and it didn't pay off because he was just a good player, decent goal scorer. But to East's point, we don't have the dude. We just don't have the dude that you can say, we've really got to pay attention to him. We just don't have that.
Well, if you tell Claude's boy before the tournament even starts that he's not really going to play, I mean, why'd you pick him?
Yeah.
Well, and then that's one coaching question for this group. The other one is, do we think we're so good? I mean, why don't you change your system when you're playing Holland and put one more midfielder in there and counter a little bit, or do something. It's just like we went up mano a mano, which I mean, I'm sure that Ernie and Greg are rubbing each other out over, oh boy, that's great. But the objective of this tournament is to win the trophy. It's not to go out there and play pretty soccer. Not that we did that here. But
this is a picture of the third goal.
Yeah, there's a few problems.
Oh my God!
He already had the blend.
So take a look at this. You've got Anthony Robinson is right about at the penalty dot, right?
Yeah.
He's tracking the offensive player coming in at the dot. I believe, is that Ream standing at the dot already?
Yeah.
Probably.
So you leave somebody wide open on the back post. I mean, it literally, the cross comes in and he has all day. So this goal can't happen at this level.
And you notice that we're +3, right? This is not.
And everyone's square.
Yeah.
Everyone is square.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look what everybody's looking at.
The ball.
I mean,
Everybody's
everybody.
looking at the ball.
I mean,
except
the
Reem.
goalkeeper.
Reem is the only one that's not. His head is turned the other way. He
Yeah.
knows that there's somebody coming to the dot, and he's got somebody else on the other side. Everybody else's head, and maybe is that Pulisic at the top of the 18?
Yeah.
Somebody else is looking down. It's hard for me to tell because obviously graphically it's not.
No, it's a good
picture,
photo
but
because the other thing it shows you is some overlapping right back didn't get ass over tea kettle up the park and overlap, and we missed him. He was standing there, like Rabe said, putting on his John Jacob Jingleheimer frickin' wooden copas so he could drill us. He was standing there.
Yeah, but Christian Pulisic's got the D marked. He's got it covered.
But I mean, that,
Yeah, but this is on Turner because you've got to see the backside. Like that, you just can't. You have to have a look at some point in the screen.
but
he's
he can't
pointing
go
it
get
out though. He's pointing it out. Look at his left hand. He's
I know,
hollering to tell them that there's somebody on my back post.
But if you're screaming and they're not moving, then you're not doing enough.
I agree with you.
But at that point, who do you tell to go? You tell one of these guys.
Well, at that point, you're screaming for anybody to go.
Exactly.
But
It's like,
but here's you know what I'm gonna be my goalkeeper coach guy for a minute. Okay, if you're pointing at him and you know he's open, who's gonna shoot, Matt? The guy who's open. So get your ass over there and make an effort after the ball.
close them out. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was going to get back to something you were
because
talking about.
here is the problem that I had with Matt Turner, who I believe is a very good goalkeeper and is going to be very good. 2 of the 3 Dutch goals he stood on.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't dive. He stood and did the Italian thing where he yelled at everybody. And you know what? Call me old school. Call me whatever you want to. I want my goalkeeper trying for everything. And I don't want him turning. I don't want him turning and start waving his hands because he saw the guy that scored on him when no one else did. Correct me if I'm wrong, because we're all goalkeepers. That's your job.
Well, we're all your goalkeepers. We've heard it.
That's your job. You make up for the mistakes that everybody else did.
That's why you're there.
That's why you're there. Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
No, did anyone have a comment on the just going into the next game as far as we didn't really talk about the mindset, right? Did we think we were going to get blown out? Did we think we were going to be in the game? What was everyone's expectations? I'm curious. Ryan, what were your
players
thoughts?
Or us?
No, us. I mean, us.
Me personally, I didn't expect to win that game. Honestly, I didn't expect to get through to the round of 16. So I felt like very similar to how Japan got through their group. I thought the U.S. was playing with house money at this point.
Okay.
I thought they should come out, guns a-blazing, try everything they could to push early, and then they didn't. And I felt really uncomfortable about 10, 15 minutes in when I felt like we weren't pushing enough. I know we have scorers in this country. I know Philip Goodrum that plays for Memphis 901 led the league in the USL in scoring. The kid's from Nashville, Tennessee. Nobody knows who he is. He's never played on a national team at any level.
Because he scores goals.
Well, but that's it. So why do we have these guys that have never even been at the U17 or U18 levels playing? He's never been there. We have Vasquez that sat at home. Take the hot hand. You already knew you weren't going to play Reyna, right? You've already said, hey, your time's going to be limited. You took Jordan Morris, who you thought could maybe sneak you one in. Dude, just take Vasquez. And I know I'm an FC Cincinnati honk, and you guys can give me all the crap you want. I have said plenty of crap about Brandon Vasquez over the years. Greg knows this already because I think he may be a 1 year and done thing. But he was hot going into this. And you needed a goal scorer.
But devil's advocate with you, Ryan. Don't you think, Pereira was hot for Dallas FC or not? What would you say to that question?
Yeah, but he didn't play him.
Precisely.
You're not playing him. If you don't put him out there and give him minutes, he can't produce.
Yeah.
I think
John
you've got to
Boa,
get.
let me ask this, John Boa. What did you think? Did you think we were gonna get this game into overtime? Did you think? Okay.
It would have been like a miracle on ice moment. But this is my question. So we're all talking about goal scorers. I remember Pulisic hitting the crossbar against England. I remember Josh hit the near post, right, in one of the group games. And
First game.
1v1 at the beginning of the Dutch game. How many other – do you guys remember any glaring –
No, we didn't create enough chances. We'd cross the ball into the 18, and there'd be nobody in the freaking box.
Well, I mean –
That's why Pepe, I believe Pepe should have been there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Gregg Raber. Totally. All right, let's move to the quarters.
Hey, let me say one more thing about scoring
All
goals.
Okay.
Right. And Greg, you're old enough to remember this, and Boa, you are too. Maybe Ryan and Greg and Raves aren't.
I keep getting confused. So I was like, wait, I'm an old goalie, but not that old. Be easy.
Yeah, but this is before your time. You were a kid, but you were, going back to the old days. There was a team called the New York Cosmos, and they had Pelé and they had Beckenbauer on their team, and they were pretty damn good. But you know who scored their goals?
Canalia.
You know why Canalia scored their goals?
Yeah, because the other guys were marked all the damn time.
No. Well, yes, that's partly.
Come on.
True. That's partly true. But the reason Canalia scored the goals is because, like Chris Carter, when he played for the Vikings, that's all Canalia did was score goals. That's what he did. Right? Okay?
Right.
And he was a miserable motherfucker. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. He was. I played against him once, and he was a miserable motherfucker. But he scored goals. Okay. And he would say, give me the ball and I'll score goals. Right?
He would.
And he would. Right? We don't have and never have had that guy who, and like I said before, he's somewhere. Okay. I know he is. Okay. But this gets back to the Federation. We have no idea where our best players are because we bought into this. Let's put them in the DA, and yeah, those kids are good. Don't get me wrong. They're good. But we all know goal scoring is an art, right? You got you got that goofy kid who, can't really play, but the bastards can score.
How about
Right.
Speaking of goofy, like a Mueller or a Klose from Germany? Those guys look like they should be on a bowling team.
Right. Right.
And they,
Yeah.
Gerd Mueller, totally John Boa.
right. I mean,
Spot on with that comment.
Yeah.
Hey, I
one
played
leg
with
was up
Alejandro
to-
Moreno.
Yes.
I played with
Yeah.
Alejandro Moreno, and at Greensboro, they were like, if you don't pass the Cooper, you don't get your gear. And after a week, they were running him into the ground, and they finally put a heart monitor on him. They were going to kill the poor kid. He had 22 goals his freshman year.
Yeah.
And he would disappear for 80 minutes at a time. Then the next thing you know, he gets 2 and 5. Like, it's just the guys that know how to sniff it out. It's that simple.
Yes. And we don't have that.
Well,
So-
we have them in other sports as Americans. We have that guy in
Ding,
hockey.
ding, 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 ding,
We have that
ding,
guy in hockey. Deion Sanders used to slow down so the wide receiver would get by him and the quarterback would throw it to him and he'd speed up and intercept it. So we understand athleticism, we understand head games, we understand tactics and strategy until it comes to fucking soccer.
Yeah. Allen Iverson. Practice.
Yep.
Practice. We're talking about practice. Okay.
Change it.
But Allen Iverson didn't get good playing AAU basketball. He got better.
Yeah.
It's
That's a whole
self-taught.
other show.
It's like you said earlier. It's all self-taught.
This is the argument. Like we can talk about it till we're blue in the face. Until people are playing soccer at the park, and that's the game that everybody goes to play. Like if you drive through Lawrenceburg and I know it's a weird town because I live here. There are a lot of kids playing soccer in the park here.
Yep.
There's a futsal court here. It's getting more use than the basketball court is. That's also why our basketball team is not very good. But
It's also probably all white.
Absolutely. But the difference that and the argument that I always have, and I've said this, I was on the Diversity and Inclusion Council, part of the U.S. Soccer Youth Task Force. And I used to laugh because I'm like, middle-aged white guy on the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. Great. But we have to find ways to improve the game. We're putting way too much money into this game in this country for us not to be any good.
Really? We are?
Yeah. Way too damn much.
I never noticed.
It's way too much.
Well, that's because no one on this call got any of it, but it's happening. People are getting it. It's just
I see a lot of parents putting money into this game. I don't see a lot of U.S. soccer doing that.
U.S.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like in our country, parents are paying quite a bit of money for their kids to play at a higher level, right? And the system's broken.
Well, yeah.
Like we've got to make a change top down and stop saying, oh, well, we have to have this grassroots program. The grassroots program should be me and my kids playing in the park and my kid falling in love with the game because they're playing it to have fun. And then look at the kids that, like, this is probably the first, and I may be way off here, but this is the first World Cup where I thought the United States team looked fairly diverse.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
But at the same time, most of them were in programs that were super expensive for them to go play.
It's a middle-class sport.
Yeah, or upper middle class. Like, I think that's part of our issue. I think if we can continue to find ways to drive, kids to play the game, it's going to be different. The game shouldn't cost as much as it does. And again, I'm part of the problem. I work in the industry, I coach, and I get paid to coach. But we have to come up with a way here to make a change. And we're not going to get any better in the men's game until it happens.
Okay, let's get back to the World Cup. That discussion. That's another show. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Let's get back to the quarters here. All right. Ryan, hit that button. So the quarters: Croatia, Brazil, Morocco, Portugal, Netherlands, Argentina, England, France. I'll start. I thought one of the best games was Argentina, Netherlands, just because you're wanting Messi to win, but I loved the free kick that Netherlands scored to tie it in the last seconds. Totally unpredictable. I love goals like that. It was fascinating to watch, and when they broke it down, it was even more fascinating that they could even pull that off. I think, Brazil, Croatia, that was just a game of Croatia just wanting it more than Brazil, and then going into PKs. We talked about the Morocco goal. That was incredible. The guy getting up way up in the air, dominating, and, that goal. The funny thing about that goal, when you look about it, I felt the keeper should have came out. That was definitely right about the 6. Yeah. I think he should have came out. They would have been calling 911 to get the guy off the field, but instead he stayed on the line. England, France, obviously, I'll let John Boa talk about, Kane and the miss on the second PK, which really changed the whole game, I thought. So John Boa, jump right in here.
We'll go back to the first game.
First game, Netherlands, Argentina.
That could have been the final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were so many good players. That kid, Gakpo.
He's in Liverpool now, right?
He's with today.
Yeah.
He's a left foot. He's a right-footed left winger. He's 6'4".
Totally changed the game around. You're right, John.
I mean, that's hammer size. I mean, and then you juxtapose that with, these little Argentinian guys running around. That little defensive holding midfielder that did like the little windshield wiper Dutch thing for Argentina, and that kid's now about to be a multi-cajillionaire. But that was a wonderful game. I wasn't real pleased with the but I like as a coach, you always love to see those set plays come off.
Oh yeah.
But here's something that'll blow your mind. And this is Van Hall. This is his third go round with his staff, right? It was him and Franz Hoek, goalkeepers. And then he had Danny Blint's father was sitting next to him. I don't know if you noticed that. And then Edgar Davids he brought in. But this was his third go-round with the national team. The only games they lost, the Holland, the Netherlands, the Dutch, were in penalties. They didn't lose a game.
Wow. Little trivia there. Did not
they
know
were
that.
preparing for this. So it's a failure kind of that they lost in penalties, but crapshoot, right? So anyway.
Okay. All right.
I thought that was the cream of the crop. And then anytime Brazil loses in penalties when they're shooting at 196 square foot target is really interesting. Considering they could hit, a doorknob with a tennis ball from 30 feet. So,
Boa, what did you think about the Dutch free kick in the 100th minute of the 10 minutes of added time?
You always practice those, right? You practice those with your kids and to keep them interested, like you do in American football when you the flea flicker and the onside kick. Okay, we might do this one day. And
right? That's what I thought it was too. It was one of those hey, we drew this up on the playground and this is what we're going to try it.
Yeah. You go practice it over and over, but the guy that scored was the substitute, both goals.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
because what's he do?
Scores goals.
He scores goals.
We're losing. Who am I going to put in? And we got to get him the ball. They do it twice. He scores twice. So that's
ding, 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 ding.
All right. What's the next game there, John Boa?
So what do we got next? Scroll down.
Morocco, Portugal.
Yeah, I thought that was a great goal. The goalkeeper should have come and got it. I don't think there's any debate about that. England, losing on a penalty kick.
Ground control to Major Tom.
I mean, it reminds me of the story of World War II when they would black out all of England and yet Ireland would light up the entire coast of Dublin. So the German pilots would fly up the east coast of Ireland and then hit Dublin and then take a right angle, count to 100, and then start dropping bombs on Liverpool and Manchester. That's how bad people hate England. Okay. But I mean, I want to talk about this Mbappe kid just for a second, because it's really hard to tell how fast someone is on television, not to mention how quick they are. That kid is a freak, and he scores goals. Absolute pace for ages. Somebody timed him and said that they extrapolated out a 12-yard burst, and they think he could run a 40-yard dash, which is a U.S. American football metric, right?
Right.
In 3.8 seconds. Now, I don't know if they can actually do that, but that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I mean, he is absolutely crazy quick, and then also fast. So anyway,
and he scores.
He scores, and he scores goals. Thank you.
Ding, 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 ding,
And he scores goals. But France, England, it's tough to feel bad for England. But I tell you, if you take, there's 8 teams that are really disappointed: Brazil, Germany, Spain, England, Holland, France, and probably a little bit Mexico. And then maybe Uruguay, like Greg said, then put Denmark, Portugal, Belgium on that second tier. But England, they've been to the Final Four. They've been to the final European Cup, which is a harder tournament than this one, by the way. So they've been there. This was a huge failure for English football, but you lost to France. Is England better than France? I don't think so.
They were the better team that day, in my opinion. I honestly think they were the better team that day.
They could have easily won. Right. There's no question, but they didn't. So.
Yeah.
All right, Greg Raber, go ahead. Greg Raber,
No,
talk to us about Netherlands-Argentina game.
It's a coin flip. I mean, I think Bo's hit it pretty good. I mean, it could have been a final. I mean, that was a great game. And the tournament didn't really start until the final 8. I don't think that there were compelling games, don't get me wrong. But this is when it got really good. And take all the politics and Qatar out of it. And it wasn't the best football, but it was compelling. It was good TV. And that's when all this started cranking up. And I'm sure it's going to lead into Bone, what you're going to get into moving into the final. But, if you're Argentina, you lose to Saudi Arabia, and the manner in which you lose to start, and then you're starting to plod your way through, I didn't see him going to do, but we'll get into that later. But, that's just my opinion. Mbappe is LeBron. I'm going to let that go. He hit a ball so hard that the goalkeeper didn't even move until it was in the goal.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron James is a great analogy. Yeah, not Larry Bird.
He's just bigger, faster, stronger. He's this guy that is,
Dude, he's got NFL receiver speed and he's got NBA quickness.
Yeah, and he plays in France, so he's never going to get kicked. So he can play until he's 34 years old, you know, or he's not going to England or Germany could afford him, but he's not going anywhere else. Why would he?
Well, he's gonna break the World Cup scoring record when he's 27 years old. He's only 23.
It's crazy.
He won a World Cup at 19. Like, he may transcend the game and take it to a place we've not seen before. But then again, I was born in 1980. What do I know?
That's what EV and I say. You're right.
We have something in common. 1980. Woo.
No, but seriously, I mean, other than Holland for City, the kid up front, right? Think about another guy you want up front. Just get him the fucking ball. What's your job? Get the ball to that guy.
And he disappeared for the first 45 minutes of he did nothing, and then all of a sudden he's got a gear that other people don't have, and that's mental and physical. But he also had the physical to go with it.
And that made the difference in the final as well. Like the first 70 minutes of the final, which we'll talk about. I won't want to jump too far ahead, but the first 70 minutes of the final, France showed nothing really.
Right.
And he just kind of was out there. And then they moved him central, and then look what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Evie, what do you think of the quarters, the games?
I think I have a special tribute to Oliver Giroud or Olivier Giroud, because you know why?
No, why?
Because he scores goals. He scores goals. Right?
Right.
He shows up and he scores goals. Okay.
And he never stops working.
He never stops working.
Told him he wasn't good enough.
Yeah,
Arsenal told him he wasn't good enough. They let him go for free.
Yeah. Yeah. And he sticks his head in where most people wouldn't, and he scores goals. Okay. And when you get right down to it, that's what this game is about. Okay. And so the quarters, I enjoyed watching them, and I guess, again, Raves and I talked a lot, and we, even back then we were like, it's going to be Argentina and France. I thought France would win ultimately, but not to be.
Me too.
All right, so let's talk about the semis here. We had Argentina, Croatia, and France, Morocco. I was sort of surprised that Croatia could not score. I really was. I think there was a lot of pressure, obviously, on Argentina to win this game, to get into the final. So Messi could, be the star. And it was interesting to see. I thought Messi really stepped it up, and Croatia just didn't do anything. I don't think it was Argentina playing that great. It was just Croatia didn't do anything, in my opinion. I think France, Morocco, I didn't think Morocco had it in them, and especially if they had to come out and chase the game like they did, when France scored. And then, France gets the second goal, the game's sort of over by then, even though I thought France had some chances, some very good chances, by the way, but on that day, it just wasn't going to go in. So how about you, Greg Raber?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of earmarked France from the beginning. I didn't see it. I didn't see anybody beating them. I thought they were going to win it. That was just my opinion. So,
No,
what do you think of the Argentina-Croatia game?
I was surprised that Modric didn't, like, he played his usual excellent game, but it didn't seem like he was connecting as much with the guys up front as he usually does.
I think he was completely out of gas.
Yes, and that's a good point. I agree. But I mean, the result was probably what everybody thought, and I that's what I thought too. But I was surprised that and I think you're right, Bose. I think he was just shot. I think he was just
what a wonderful,
what a player.
That's the guy you want your son to be.
Yes.
I mean, oh, it gives me chills. I just love watching people like that. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think?
I think Croatia blew their load against Brazil, for lack of a better term. They literally put all that they had into getting to the PKs at the end of that game against Brazil and got up against Argentina and had 0 left. I think Argentina, after losing to Saudi Arabia in that first game, it was a wake-up call for them.
Yes.
And they were pissed from that point on, right? Like, they didn't play another game where they looked like they were on the back, like on their back foot at all from that point forward. I mean, the Netherlands game, they held pretty close, right, with the PKs and gave a little bit up there at the end. But when they played Croatia, I actually was really disappointed in the semifinal games in general with both of them. I thought they were anticlimactic to a certain extent, which doesn't matter because we got the best final probably of all time.
So Ryan, do you think if Croatia would have scored this first outcome, I'm not saying it would have been totally different, that Argentina would not have won, but maybe made it a little bit harder for Argentina? Because I thought Argentina was just connecting passes, doing what they wanted to do.
I think that Di Maria is probably one of the most underrated players on that roster. And I know people do talk about how good he is at times, but I thought in this tournament he played really, really well. There were a couple other players for Argentina that stood out, especially in the semifinal game. And I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm trying to look him up on the fly, but
a little holding defensive midfielder kid that's about to go to
McAllister. I thought
Argentinian.
Yeah, I thought McAllister played really, really well. Now that I pulled it up, I just feel like in the Croatia game it was Alvarez, right?
Yeah, right. It was.
It was the Alvarez show.
You're right. You're spot on with that. You're spot on.
And I mean, he had 2 goals, so everybody knows it was him. But the things that he did off the ball were the things that made the difference to me. Croatia just didn't look like they ever settled into their game plan. They looked tired. They just looked sluggish. And it was frustrating because I really thought that game was going to be a good game. Modric is so good. And he didn't play well in that game, honestly.
Yeah.
Getting
really
old.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you could say that about a number of the players in this tournament, though. I mean, what, Di Maria's 39?
No.
How old is he?
32, 34, somewhere like that.
Yeah, but Modric, he's the motor. Like Di Maria is like opportunistic. Modric makes that thing go. There's a difference in having to be the engine or having to be a tire. Like it's a very different role. Modric drives that thing. It is his bus, and at his age, that's a tall ask.
Yeah. Di Maria's 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was off there, but
all right, let's talk to the final first. Now I've been watching the World Cup since 1970.
I wasn't born yet. Neither was Raber, just for the record.
And that was back in the day of EV Circuit TV, if you remember that, with the big boxing. You'd have to go to. So I saw in the Cincinnati Gardens, I saw Italy, Brazil 70. My dad took me when I was 10 years old. Anyway, I thought this was the best final I've ever seen. I think a lot of people would definitely agree with it. Just to see the back and forth and almost like the written script for Messi. And I think just how the game turned from 2-0, 2-1, really nothing happening, and the guy gets a PK on just a stupid foul, and then the game turns. And then the second goal was just incredible on just to be able to time it and hit it that hard was phenomenal. So
yeah, that volley was nuts.
The volley was incredible. And like I said, just as everyone knows, you score, right? That's what he does. And then I think the game to, even go into overtime and just the intensity of that was phenomenal. I mean, both teams, playing it, giving it all they got. Argentina, I definitely think, had the home crowd, with the surge and, France answering. It was, like they said on TV, punch, counter punch, the whole game. I was surprised that Argentina was just so dominating the first half. I mean, they came out, they locked France. If you watch that, France had so much trouble. They didn't even have a shot the whole first half. I think they didn't have their shot. The first
72nd minute.
The 70th minute or something like that, which is incredible. So
that second
Martinez making, us as goalkeepers will certainly remember, Martinez making the fantastic save in the overtime to preserve it to go into overtime. It was just, what can you say? Probably, save of the game, in my opinion. And then he did what he did in the PKs, to get him through. So, John Bowe, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts?
Well, to get there, I think everyone was right. Croatia played Brazil for 120 minutes, fellas. It would have taken them a month to recover.
Yeah.
So seriously, wonderful. And then when you get to that point and you're Argentina and France, how many World Cup finals, not tournaments like we talk about here, how many finals have France and Argentina been in since, let's say, 1978? Okay, that's 78 is when Argentina won it, right? So what's that, like 9? So once they smell that, they get their tails up. I think it's going to give you kind of a little dour semifinal. But did you ever have any doubt it was going to be Argentina after the quarterfinals? Probably not. But man, to your point, Greg, just now about, France didn't do anything to 72nd minute. The Argentinians pushed Di Maria all the way up like a old school 5 up front Hungarian left winger. And it was like they just kept playing in the ball, and he would cut in. He caused that penalty. He would just keep cutting in on people. It was like the French didn't even adjust. But I think what really sums up for me what we really struggle with in this country and why they ended up winning the tournament is that second goal. The ball pops out to the right back, who hits it first time with his left foot, mind you, because it is a 2-footed sport. First time to the midfielder, he finds Messi. Messi knocks it. The rest is history. So generally, if you play it early and you get it to your best player, good things happen. And that's
well said.
That won the game. That second goal was wonderful.
So to answer Boa's stat question,
wonderful.
10 finals appearances between the two countries.
Finals.
6 for Argentina, 4 for France. Argentina 1930, 1978, 1986, 1990, 2014, and 2022. And then France was 98, 06, 18, and 2022.
So, and we always talk about you were talking about earlier, the pyramid and the legacy and the building up from the bottom. France is, think about those Platini teams that should have gone to the final in the 70s and 80s. Unbelievable. So the best 2 teams were there. It was a wonderful game. We could talk about the expansion, I think, at the end here, about what's going to happen with that. Necessarily, more teams doesn't make for a better tournament. And with everything that was going on off the field, the players deserve all the credit, in my opinion, for that final. Was big time.
EV?
It was a great final. Like you said, it was probably the best final we've seen. I wish it had been one without having to go to penalties, but because I think penalties, I get that they're exciting and all that, but it doesn't seem, it's a crapshoot, like you said earlier, and you get to penalties and anything can happen. But I thought it was a game that that lived up to the reputation of World Cup finals. Okay. That's about all you can say to it. And I was happy for Messi because, it's been something he's been chasing forever, and finally he got it. Good for him.
Isn't that funny though? He didn't win any international trophies until his last 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Copa and this. You're right. Yeah.
And as far as excitement goes, I mean, I wasn't born yet, but '66, English guy had a hat trick, right? When they won.
Jeff Hurst. Yeah.
Jeff Hurst,
And then the '82 Altobelli final, of course, was wonderful, and then the Maradona '86. But except for those, I don't remember one that entertaining. I'm sure there were tactical things that were amiss, but
yeah,
it was
well said.
Yeah,
well said with entertaining. Greg Raver, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't go as far back. I started my first World Cup was in '90. I started watching, and I did send Evie a picture of the ticket. I was actually at Maradona's last game in Foxborough in '94 when they played Greece and he scored before he got banned. So I had this weird thing when Argentina won. I use basketball as an analogy because that's what happens when you go to Kentucky. It's almost like LeBron. It's like LeBron played Jordan. And Jordan is on his way out. He's 35 years old, and LeBron is 23. And they each scored 50, and it went to overtime with a buzzer beater. It was really compelling TV.
And then somehow Jordan won.
Right, but you don't have to be a sports fan to really appreciate it. The emotional ways that happened were. I didn't have a dog in the fight, but it was compelling. And it was really cool to see greatness. And I have a Tiger Woods rule that I'll appreciate your athletic greatness, but I don't care about you off the field. But what we saw on the field, and I throw Ronaldo in that too, what we saw on that field, I don't know that we're going to see again, and maybe we will, but I thought it was compelling TV, to be very honest.
All right, Ryan, take us home here.
Well, I had sent you multiple texts during the game.
You did.
One was, "Are you watching this? Holy shit." Because
hold on, Ryan, let me interrupt you because I think everyone needs to know about this. So Ryan, first, you're allowed to bet legally in Indiana. And so Ryan did a parlay. Ryan, why don't you take it over from here on what the parlay was and explain this bet.
Okay, so I had a bet that Messi would score. I had that it would end in a tie in regulation. And then I had a bet that Mbappe would score.
Wow, you made some money.
Not enough to retire. But yeah, so I hit all three on that. And it was funny because that wasn't even the part that was the most exciting for me. I think ultimately, I actually text this to Greg as well because I thought, man, I don't know that even if the U.S. is in this game, that I'm more excited than what I'm watching right now. If the U.S. was playing, I'd want them to win, right? And I'd be miserable if they didn't. And in this case, I was just like, oh my God, this is a great match. I'm watching a great match. And I was super excited that there were a lot of people who aren't soccer fans necessarily that were watching that match. They were seeing the drama, the excitement. I was annoyed by some of the commentary, when they were like, yeah, if you're watching soccer for the first time, yes, it is always this exciting. Yeah. That kind of pissed me off. But I want that to be the narrative, but I don't want them to spin it that way, if that makes sense. There are moments that soccer is extremely exciting. I have a number of friends who are like, how can you watch a game that ends 0-0 and think it was a good game? And I'm like, well, it could have been. There could have been lots of chances and two goalkeepers played really well, and I like to see that. But in this case, I was in a text chat with some of the coaches from the club that I work with, and I said, man, it is the 70th minute. I was like, if France doesn't make some subs soon and move Mbappe to the center, they're in trouble. They've got to get him centralized and they've got to create more chances for him. They make the two subs right about when I sent that text. And then they scored right after it. I looked like a genius. And in reality, I was just kind of like, it's desperation time. It's all or nothing right now for them. They've got to push, right? But I think it's the best game I've ever watched. Now, again, I haven't seen as many matches as you all have, because I think my first World Cup that I watched was in 1990 as well. But I don't know that I've ever seen a match that I felt more excited was going into overtime, and then to see what's happening in overtime and how they played it out. I don't like ending matches in PKs at all. I'm with EV on that. I also know that you're not going to go another 30 minutes.
Right.
But I think that you have to have a way to decide it, but I was hoping that it would be decided in overtime rather than PKs. It does add drama for sure. Like every little shot and every little mistake can add up, but I think it probably was the best match I've seen in my life, and it may be the best I ever see. I don't know that we see Messi in 4 years. I mean, he could. I doubt it, but I don't think we do.
I don't know. He says he's going to play.
Can I interject a question about penalties real quick? Since you guys, somebody can find this, I'm sure. Is it a subjective observation on my part, or did you guys feel the same way that there were more missed or saved penalties than you've ever seen in your fucking life?
Yes.
Did anybody quantify that?
I can't quantify it, but you're right. First there were more penalties than we've seen normally. If you include, even in-game run of play penalties, there was a lot. Okay.
All right. You want the stat? I got it.
All right. We got the stat.
Well, there was also more time, so that should be factored in as well. There was more extra time than before, so statistically speaking, it's a higher probability you're going to have more penalties with more time.
But right. Even the guy,
that'd be interesting to find out. That'd be find out if how many PKs were awarded in extra time, right? That'd be interesting. But anyway, all right, Ryan, what you got for us?
Well, so I don't have the number of like games that went into PKs.
I do.
No. I meant penalty kicks
in the tournament in game. There were 19 awarded through the semifinals based on what this date is.
Okay.
So, this is all of them. Sorry. So there were a total of 19 penalties awarded at the World Cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 were scored.
What's that percentage? What's that percentage, Greg Graber?
72%.
Okay, so what's it supposed to be? 85, 90?
It should be 90, 95. I mean, it should be 90, 1 out of 10.
I mean, the Royce guy from Poland saved too.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. All right, to answer the question, how many games were decided in PKs? The answer is 5. And Ryan, I don't know if you can get a close-up of that poster behind me. That's exactly what that poster's about, taking PKs on a little island. So 5 is the answer. And I don't know if that's a lot, to be honest, in the knockout stages.
Looking that up.
Well, that's a lot because there's only 12 games that go to penalties, not including the final. That's 13. So that's a lot. That's almost half of the game.
Yeah.
Well, I also think the size of the goalkeepers changed things as well. I mean, they're mutants now. I mean, I wouldn't even sniff a goal. I wouldn't met the kid from UK about 5 years.
How tall was the Dutch dude? Wasn't he like 6'7"?
6'9".
Yeah,
6'9".
I was the second tallest player on my team.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I had to walk into a locker room with Zach Thornton, which was humbling, but these guys are all huge. They're tight ends now, and they're fast and they're strong. It's like the Mbappe thing. Everyone's evolving physically, but the field's not changing, the goal's not changing. So eventually, it's gonna tip at some point.
All right, 15 games, 5 games went into PKs.
There you go. That's high.
A third.
As is that many saves and misses. So there's got to be a reason for that. But
the Westwood Group has a stat database of over 11,000 penalty kick outcomes, 82%.
or scored.
Or scored.
Yeah. And Ryan, to your thing earlier about your buddies that don't understand 0-0, and I don't give a shit if there's a shot or not. Seriously, if it's good, like if you're AC Milan in 1980 and it's Maldini and Baresi, and you give up 23 goals in 125 games, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think.
So, but the same people will go watch Nolan Ryan throw a no-hitter and get the baseball signed. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And everybody's sitting there with their hands on their knees. And all he does is throw the ball and gets 27 people out, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. So don't take any guff off these scum.
All right, so we got about 15 minutes. We got about 15 minutes left, Ryan. Am I right? Around
we can go to whenever. I'm game for whatever.
Okay, all right.
It's up to you guys. I'm here for the night.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get into. Someone mentioned the white elephant in the room, which is, does the federation re-sign Gregg Berhalter? So he was getting $1.3 million. He's had some offers from Europe.
Bye.
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 We know somebody's feeling. All right, we'll start with you, Ryan. Tell us why you want him gone and why he's not the guy to lead us for the World Cup in 26.
Because I think he picked the roster that he picked this year to save his job for 4 more. I don't think he put the best team out on the field at any point during this tournament. Mainly because he didn't take the best players that were available to him for this tournament. I think you look at, sure, Gio's a young kid and there were some issues there. The players seem to think that was nipped in the bud pretty early. Based on what I've seen from players in interviews after the fact. And it seemed like Berhalter took it personally and just held on to that and just refused to play him.
So wait a minute. Let me just clarify what you're saying. You're telling me that they, first of all, did not pick the best 26 players.
Correct.
Okay. So that's a problem. So
Yep.
then secondly, you're saying of that 26, he did not pick the best 11 for each. For
Not at any given point was the best 11 on the field.
That's mind-boggling to me that can happen. If it's true, I know it's your opinion, and I don't know enough about U.S. soccer to comment. We don't have that many good players. Brazil doesn't have a problem picking 26 guys. So what do we have?
I think some of the guys that were picked, though, were picked because they had a history with Berhalter rather than being the best players out there. I wholeheartedly don't believe that Jordan Morris should have been on that roster.
We got that. What do you think about Josh Sargent, though?
I think Sargent showed that he can compete, but I think
he got hurt, didn't he?
He got hurt.
Yeah, right.
Halfway through the second game.
Yeah.
Right. But
and he was doing some good stuff up front.
He was.
Yeah.
I just think that overall you have to look at, we've talked about it until we're blue in the face tonight. We're not scoring enough goals. They put some chances up when they did. They hit the post, but they didn't put enough chances up.
But Ernie Stewart and Gregg Berhalter did an interview with the New York fucking Times, and they said, it does not matter if we win or lose. It matters how we play. We want people to respect the way we play. They're right there.
Fuck that.
They're telling you that it's not about creating chances. If you create 20 chances and you score 3, you're going to beat Holland. Okay, that's not what they're saying. They're saying we want to be this Joga Bonita Brazilian Pele in 1958 horse shit. We aren't that country.
I don't give a shit if the goal hits both posts and then caroms in off the goalkeeper's ass.
It's about winning.
Like, win the games.
Yeah.
Like, go and play to win the games.
Okay.
I don't care.
Right.
I don't want to see, the beautiful game. I don't care.
Okay.
I want to see guys go out there and work hard to win.
Well, they do.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Gregg Berhalter, stay or go.
Yeah, my opinion on him is that I think this entire World Cup was an exercise of him to try to learn people, and this entire World Cup was for the next World Cup. And so I don't like him and his brother being in the federation. I don't like that. Should he stay or go? I don't know, because it's kind of like every coach. Okay, you're going to fire him. Who are you going to get?
That's not what we're saying yet, but we're saying your opinion. You're the GM. Do you rehire him?
If I'm the GM, I already know who I'm going to hire before I fire him, and I'm not the GM. So, in my opinion, are there better coaches out there? Unequivocally. I do think there are, but there is an arrogant / I don't know how to phrase this, and Ian and I have talked about this, about the manner in which the U.S. players go about, they handle things. They got a little diva to them, and I think he has to do some coddling. And if you bring in someone from the outside, because your next coach is always going to be different than your last coach, and it's usually the pendulum swings the other direction. And I think Gregg does a lot of coddling because they're young. So if you bring in a hammer, it could turn into a mess. So honestly, I'm not close enough to it to know to give you a fair answer. But if I was running the Federation, I would already know before the World Cup, if this goes sideways or I'm not comfortable with it, who do I have in the stable that's ready to go right now, and what's it going to cost me? What's their plan, and how are they going to revamp the youth program? And I know that's a cop-out, but that's really
You're
hard.
right. It's a cop-out. We want you to say you hire them or you don't.
You keep him 100%. And the reason you keep him 100% is two reasons. One, I'm pretty sure that the United States is already in the World Cup.
Okay.
Okay. Number two is if you do fire the coach again and you have to have an American, which they think they've said, then you're giving all the players the power again, like we did after 1994. And we're not good enough for the players to have all the power.
Right.
And I think that if you keep the manager, and again, he's not training these guys. This is like about personalities and timing and who to put in and who to take off when you're playing so and so and so and so. So right now we're preparing to play Germany next June in Munich, right? That's a big game. So I don't know enough about U.S. soccer to comment on who would be a better Bruce Arena or Eric Vaughter out there. But all I'm saying is you keep him. You're not going to beat Holland anyway. You tied England. Holland lost to the world champions. Use that. And the Federation needs to go into the players and say, guys, you want to be part of this program in 4 years? Gregg's the boss, and walk out of the room.
You're saying keep him. All right, EV.
I don't know why he would want the job, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, you know, and Hank and I texted about this the other day. It's like, you know, it's not Gregg Berhalter said himself that he prefers to be on the field, and his job is not on the field.
Not at all.
Right? His job is in front of the cameras, and his job is managing, like Bo said. But do we keep him? You know what? I don't. I guess so. I mean, you know.
Exactly. I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess so, boy.
Yeah, you know.
That's
Now,
I get called a cop-out. I just
that's
want
a
to
cop out. That's a cop out.
no. I mean, you know, I kind of agree with everything everybody said, right? Here's Herb Brooks' quote, right? I don't. His assistant coach said, "Herb, these are not the best players." He said, "I don't want the best players. I want the right players." Okay, and that's what he did. He got the right players for his style of coaching that he knew he could manage. Okay. Now, if you look at Gregg Berhalter, and I agree with Rabes, you shouldn't have a guy whose brother's in the Federation.
He quit, by the way.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
After he got his brother the job.
Yeah, of course. But you know, and we're always going to have this in the United States because we haven't had a leader at the Federation for, I don't know, how long has it been since Hank left?
Since
right?
Hank left?
2000.
Yeah. We haven't had it since 2000, whatever it was.
2010.
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, I mean, you know, Cindy Cohn, really? Or, I mean, you know, great player, but business person, you know, leader.
Has anybody heard her talk about the men's national team since the World Cup?
No. What she's talked about is equal pay.
That was it.
Yeah,
Thank you for getting the women their checks.
Yeah.
$350,000, by the way, in case you wanted to know that.
Which
right,
is,
Ryan?
which is, you know what?
For the women and the men.
But it's going to kill their professional league because it's not financially viable. So all that money that did offset fund benefits, maternity leave, everything. Not to go on a diatribe, but they won a battle. They lost the war, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, yes and no, right? Because the three NWSL franchises, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ryan, Boston, San Fran, and San Diego. Am I right?
I believe that's correct.
And one of them is willing to pay $40 million.
Yeah, Real Salt Lake.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, so Salt Lake got the
Salt Lake
Utah
gets a pass,
Royals.
you're right.
They
Salt
got
Lake
it was a
gets a
$2 million
$2 million,
buy-in.
Right.
Theirs was the cheap one.
Yep. 40 mil.
And then
San Fran.
yeah, San Francisco was $40 million. And then they're expecting the next expansion fee to be upwards of $50 million.
Yeah, we're talking about two different things here. The national team women on the collective bargaining agreement said anything the men win, they're going to pay them basically de facto reparations to the women's
Right.
national team players. The league
Right.
thing. I mean, Greg, you work at Soccer Village. How many women's replica jerseys did you sell this Christmas total?
You'd be surprised on how
A
many.
ton, and we sold out.
Yeah.
Define
Thank
a
you.
ton. Yeah.
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 Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I bought one for my 7-year-old because she's a girl.
Yeah,
Precisely.
So
Yeah,
give the women's jersey from Real Madrid.
the four-star U.S. women's national team jerseys sold out before Christmas, well before Christmas.
They don't play in the NWSL, fellas. I'm talking about
Right.
Yeah, but what I'm
Right.
saying is that U.S. Soccer funds that league, and so everything that doesn't go into the centralization, it's a pretty simple equation. Everybody gets a portion of their revenue. The end.
But they can't take prize money. That's against the rules. Yeah, only if you're on the FIFA executive committee can you take money.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is it all goes into U.S. Soccer. It's a bucket of cash that gets moved around. And if you're financing something to a degree that is not giving you a return, it's a race to the bottom. So why shine a light on that? That's just, I don't know much about business,
I don't know much about women, so we're even. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, here's my thoughts. I think Greg, Home Alone 2, I get it. Gregg Berhalter, I think, did a great job. If you look at his record up until the World Cup, number one, beating Mexico the amount of times he did, definitely the amount of players he tried to get involved, that was good to get people exposed.
Yep.
However, I think that's where it ends. I think tactically he had some issues in the second half of games. Everybody has pointed that out. We can debate the roster or not. Is he the guy to be leading us in 2026 on our home soil? That's the question. I don't think he is. Do I have the solution? Who he is? The next manager. I'll throw two names out there that I have not thrown out to you, Ryan. By the way, Steve Cherundolo from the LA Galaxy.
He definitely knows how to deal with some of the drama.
Here's my second pick, by the way, is Brian Schmetzer, which is a surprise. But who can say they won the tournament that he won in the spring, the CONCACAF league against Mexico? No one. Who can say they've been in the MLS finals 4 out of the last 7 years? No one. So as an American, I'm not saying it's going to be an American. Those two choices, I think you have to weigh very heavy.
Well, I think that gives more credulity to Greg Raber's point, is that you should have a succession plan in place already. But this is a company designed to win games, and they should know who 2, 3, 4, 5 is.
Yeah, yes and no, though. I mean, I think, what you got to realize, a little history, which I've looked up. Bruce Arena, Bob Bradley, and Jurgen Klinsmann all failed after their first cycle. Just keep that in mind, boys.
Well, that's systemic. That's not coaching. That's systemic.
Whatever. Whatever we
It's
want
an
to call
inability to groom and have a program in place. That's you don't have a vision. It's not about the coach. It's your pipeline.
But
Every
No.
business
did we give Klinsman long enough time to have that pipeline in place?
He fractured that locker room
Absolutely.
overnight.
Klinsman wasn't a
agree with
manager
Greg
either, fellas. I mean, he
Absolutely.
had coached 20 games in his life before they gave him that job.
Right.
And great players are very rarely good coaches.
Especially when they play up
Their
front.
expectations are like, you should do it the way I do it. That's why catchers, goalkeepers, and all the ancillary guys that do the dirty shit are coaches, because they're not the guys on the front page of Sports Illustrated. They're the ones that had to grind and go in the backyard, to Greg's earlier point. They're the ones, and Evie's point, they're banging balls all day because it was really hard to get there. And there was 10 other guys coming to your spot, and you could lose it any day. No one was sniffing Jurgen Klinsmann ever.
How many clubs did Harry Kane go on loan with before he settled at Spurs?
I'll guess 6.
Over under 5.
So imagine a kid that goes to University of Virginia and they're licking his ball sack for 4 years. Are you telling me that he's going to go to the Tampa Bay, whatever, and then to the Des Moines Spears and to the – no way. So again, to everyone's point, there's no players. You got to have a system. So anyway, let's keep going. Sorry.
Or we can just bring back Bora and it'd be great. And we just watch.
Well, he scared the players too, didn't he?
There you go.
Now, I'll throw this out there because it's been talked about, by the way. You keep Berhalter on till the end of the Copa America or the Gold Cup, and then you make a change.
If they don't win the Gold Cup,
possibly do that. I'm not saying they're going to, but
if they don't win the Gold Cup, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Okay, fair enough.
But they're already in the World Cup. They're going to play a bunch of kids that have never got a sniff. So
maybe.
I don't think they are, Greg. I would disagree. There's a lot of money at stake with that. I think they want a good showing. I think they'll play some kids, but I think they'll play some veterans as well.
Agree to disagree. I just this whole thing is just going to be about, to you guys' earlier point, they're trying to find this next wave. I think they're going to trot out a bunch of kids and just see what they have and see if anybody can catch lightning in a bottle. I mean, that's me. And I say that I haven't coached in 15 years other than U8 soccer and Terrace Park. So what do I know?
EV, thoughts on that? Not the Terrace Park. Not the Terrace Park.
I don't know. I do know it's a statistic that Hank told me that it is very rare. Like Didier Deschamps is an absolute aberration because he's been there 3 cycles. Hank's told us once that, it's almost a death knell to have a coach there for 2 cycles with a national team, because the second cycle he will not do well. Okay. A question I got a question that I would have of Gregg Berhalter is, this whole Claudio Reyna or Gio Reyna thing. You talk about mishandling something.
Exactly.
It's like, really, you had a Ferrari in the garage and you kept driving a Volkswagen to work.
That's a PR problem.
Yeah, and plus the PR problem. Plus, again, my question comes. I would ask Ernie Stewart, what the fuck were you doing?
And how did it get out?
You didn't see this. You didn't see this coming down the pike, and you've been on the national team along with Gregg Berhalter, and you didn't pull him into the room and say, "Dude, you got to deal with this."
Yeah. Now, because you guys do know that Claude's wife, Gio's mom, and Berhalter's wife were roommates when they played for Anson at Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there had to be some kind of something going on. So.
Yeah. So and is that going to, we talk about a second cycle, is that going to fester, and that's Gio Reyna. Who knows if there's other guys that have been in a similar situation that we haven't heard about yet. So, I mean, again, this comes down to me is the leadership at the Federation. I don't really think they know what they're doing. I think they're a blind man walking around a barrel inside in the dark. And, they just, they keep bouncing off walls with no I mean, can you tell me if? I mean, the only constructive thing that I can see that the federation has done is women have got equal pay. Great, that's great. Okay. Now here's a question: what happens in the next World Cup if God forbid we don't win? Okay. You know, what's going to happen? What's going to go on then with our leadership? We don't have any leadership at the top, you know, and it's just, you know, it filters down to the coach and all that stuff. And it's just not happening. You know, I mean, we're sitting here, we're all soccer guys and we're like, these guys suck. You know, it's like the groundskeepers in Major League.
Yeah.
You know,
They're still shitty.
they're still shitty.
Yeah, I don't think they suck. I just don't see a plan.
That's the thing. I mean, Greg, Greg, you run a company, and that's, you always tell your kids and you tell your sales reps and you tell anybody else, guys, we got to have a map. We got to have a plan, because if we get off on the wrong exit in the middle of Arkansas, we can always find our ways back to the highway and keep going, and we'll hit our plan. But if you don't, you're lost in the swamps. And I don't see – we have a president, and then we have this CEO person of U.S. Soccer that was like the head of a referee volunteer organization. He used to line fields. So I don't know who has the acumen, A, and the scope, B, to run this thing. Period.
Take a person that knows nothing about soccer
That's it.
that can run a damn business, because all you need to do is hire smart people that are smarter than you and then hold them accountable. And that's
the product is the team, and your sales plan is wins.
Yep.
And
Coach
that's
not playing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God.
We're turning into suits.
No, it's you know, yeah, everything we've said is true.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't see any indication that this is, you know, that this has been done. I mean, you know, we're talking, you know, to your point, Ryan, you know, do we need to hire like Hank used to say Bora was a great tournament coach, right? And we've seen tournament coaches in basketball, right? Mm-hmm. You know, guys who are Jimmy Valvano was a great tournament coach, they used to say, you know, and you know, and maybe that's what you need. Maybe you just need somebody to come in and coach a team for 60 days or 90 days or whatever it is, you know. But you know, I don't want to say we were terrible, and we were better, but in the arena that we played in, are we any good?
Well, we wouldn't have qualified out of Africa or Asia, would we?
We're the highest ranked team in CONCACAF at the moment. If you look at the FIFA rankings, we're 13th in the world.
It's great. He's the tallest midget.
And Ohio State and Michigan are both in the final four. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that's like being on the top floor of the Titanic.
I agree. I'm just putting it out there. The thing is that the federation, do they look at that and go, "Hey, we're the highest ranked team in CONCACAF"?
Well, I think
and they're okay. They're okay with it.
Yeah, and I think
they are.
Yes, and I think that plays along with what Bose said. Is we're in the next tournament, right? Because we're hosting it. Okay, so what the question is going to be: we've got 4 years to make progress on the field. You know, we'll make great progress off the field, and unfortunately, that's what counts nowadays. We go how many commercials are you in, all that bullshit, which is bullshit, right? It's what did you do on the field? Well, you know, it's that old, you know, it's the old saying, and we've all said this as coaches, you're as good as your last game. We weren't very good. Yeah. You know, we just weren't. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, we can say what we want. Yes, we made strides. Yes, we did. We went from being, like, if you're a college team, right? We went from having 5 wins in the season to 10 wins in the season, got a bid and got boat raced our first game.
Yeah,
great.
It went out and played, didn't pack it in. I get what they were doing.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it, but that's what they did.
Yeah, I don't either.
Toe to toe. I get it. And
but
they played England and freaking Holland. So,
you know, I don't agree with the way he did it, but you know, we made strides. Okay.
We have some good players, man. We have some good athletes. You know, that little kid was our captain that plays at Leeds is a good freaking football player.
Right.
I
They're all
like
good. They're all good.
I like Aronson in the midfield. That guy
Aronson,
does
same thing.
everything.
Leeds, same thing. Yep.
He's
So
a menace in the midfield.
and he's playing in the best league in the world. So we've got good players. I just don't, we got all the beer. We just don't have the plastic thing to hold the six packs together.
So if we've got a couple of our really good players playing at Leeds, what's stopping the Federation from going after Jesse Marsh and saying, "Hey, Jesse, come lead this team"?
It's a completely different. Why would Jesse do that? Why would he go?
He's not ready.
Once every 2 months where he's on the field like Berhalter says he wants to be, then he needs to go manage Swansea or Dortmund or Gladbach or something.
And
I
if
mean,
we want to truly,
You said it. You answered your question, Ryan. Why would the Federation not go after him? Because it's the Federation. They've shown no inclination of doing really what's best for the sport in the United States. I mean, getting back to the women, you know why the women win World Cups?
Yeah,
Because we got 312 farm teams.
Yeah.
Title
Right.
IX.
Yeah.
and they're faster than everybody else.
And we're bigger, stronger, faster.
Yeah, but everybody
Right.
else is catching up with them. Too.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yes,
the rest of the
people-
world
yes.
seems to be making that move.
Yes, people are catching up with that. And at some point, we're not going to be the Russians anymore.
That's right.
1980 Olympic reference.
Yep.
Okay. Right now, we're the Russians. We're supposed to win, and we do. Okay. But that's going to stop at some point, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to come down to, again, what we've been saying forever: leadership at the federation level, and we just don't have it.
It'll expose women's once he reaches that point where we're losing to England. We'll probably beat England 3-1 next time we play them, but they beat us. Okay. So it'll expose, how our college system doesn't prepare you to play center midfielder at Bayern Munich. Same thing with college soccer. When you play at Duke, it doesn't prepare you for anything. So it's going to expose that. And then that professional edge that you need between the time you're 22 and 27, we're going to just get left. I mean, we all know this. We've done well in under 15 tournaments globally, under 17s for decades.
Yep.
But then once you get to be a freshman in high school, you're training with Roy Keane at the Cliff in Manchester, and you're playing with me at Boulder High School.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so is Nigeria. I think it's that tipping point around that. How do you funnel them into a place that they can actually foster, learn, and grow? And I think that's the failure. And I don't know enough about it. But it feels like we don't have enough relationships in Europe, and they don't trust us to actually be able to move the chess pieces around and say, we want to put our player here and do this and be a part of it with their agent to put our players that we think could help in a position to succeed. I mean, that's me.
Well, that brings okay. This is another episode, but let's do an episode on, and it'll be a very short episode on scouting in the United States for soccer.
Yeah.
Okay. Because really, there's five guys sitting here, three of them who are of the age where, if U.S. soccer was smart, we'd be out every weekend on their dime, sitting in the bleachers watching soccer and picking out players and giving reports. Because you know what happens? You know why it works? Because it works in baseball, football, hockey, basketball. There's old guys sitting in the.
I got a kid for you.
Watching.
Yep, I got a kid for you.
So
are we gonna have time to talk about 2026?
I'm game.
Because the good thing,
I'm always game.
Okay, well, have we beaten the World Cup 22 horse to death, or
We have.
I think so.
Yeah, the horse is dead. It's in Taco Bell meat. Please don't sue us. So.
Okay, hold on. Bone, did you answer the question on Berhalter, or did you just MC it?
no, I think you 100% keep him.
No, I said get a new coach.
Yeah, he's
cop
like, get
out.
rid of-
I said get a new coach.
Get a new coach. Okay.
I said 100% keep him.
I know.
Okay.
And by the way, none of these players are going to be timed out of the cycle. I don't think.
But they're not going to be like FIFA 23 and get 2 more years of level experience, right?
No, I mean
And
they're all going to be 26 to 29, aren't they? Instead of
Yeah, I think this tournament was 100% for the next one, especially with home games.
but here's the question. Here's the question, and it's the answer is real tiny. How many meaningful games will they get in 3.5 years?
That's up to the federation and what they're
exactly
willing
up to the federation. If you can make money selling out the LA Coliseum because you play Mexico every 6 weeks,
but
you got to go to Europe. You got to go to Europe. You
Now,
got to go
you're
to
missing
Buenos
my
Aires.
point. Nothing's at stake. Nothing's at stake.
Right.
But you
We can
got
play
to go.
Mexico every weekend. Nothing's at stake.
But
You
you
got to
got-
play in these. You got to play and do well in like the Gold Cup, right? Something's at stake there. Okay, money on the line.
I think also,
Yeah,
too,
but hold on. That's a good point. If it's the Gold Cup and Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. are hosting, they're in. So will the Gold Cup really give you that competitive edge this year?
Well, that's the closest, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as you look at all the friendlies that that John Boa just mentioned, something's got to be at the online, right? I mean, do you get embarrassed on your home soil?
But
Playing
the
in the Gold
tournaments,
Cup.
guys, the tournaments are the test.
Right.
Okay? The studying for the test has got to be done at Wembley and Munich and Buenos Aires and in freaking Santiago, Chile. Period. It's not going to be done playing fucking Grenadine or
Right.
Dili or whatever.
Right. Agreed.
It's just not. And if we have to play those games, which we got to play 20-something games in that, we got to go and get our asses kicked, and not against Scotland.
I think it's about the hub and spoke approach. I think the clubs develop the players. You get them to the right clubs, and then you identify those 35 players you put them in clubs that they're going to be successful and get time. Pulisic can't be buried behind Sterling. It's not about the U.S. team. It's about the development plan for each player and the connections you have and the levers you can pull to get them to where they're going to go so that they're developing, because the U.S. team does not develop. They just pull in pieces and try to put the puzzle together. You've got to make sure that you have that connection point and you can understand all the inner dynamics and you have some credibility to make a call and they pick it up. U.S. soccer doesn't develop players beyond the age of 16. They need to farm that out and build a hub and spoke.
Well, you got 11 positions, and we should be 8 to 12 deep in every position right now on a whiteboard in Chicago. Is that going on?
We're still looking for a forward. So. Ding. Ding, ding, ding.
We ordered one from home or from Office Supply.
Supply chain problems. Some back order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Story of my life.
All right. Well, let's wrap this episode.
Let's wrap this up, EV.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Let's wrap this episode because we got loads to talk about, and we've given the rants that we always give about lack of leadership, and it was interesting. I got a text from Gary Abadikian, who who Bone's very familiar with, and great coach, great I would say manager or promoter of the game.
Been around forever.
And he said, we're better. He said, I would hope to see us win a World Cup before I die, but I don't think it's going to happen. And that was kind of sobering to me because it's like, yeah, I think you're right. I mean,
I'm 42 and it's not going to happen in my life.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, because it's. Can you imagine if we played France,
dude?
Oh boy. Oh yeah, I'm sure Zimmerman would do great against Mbappe.
Yeah. And that was another thing. What about the guy Carter's Vicker or Vickers Carter or whatever, who comes in and stones Iran, and then we don't play him again?
That guy plays in freaking.
And this is the guy.
And he plays for Rangers.
Where he plays where they play the ball to the a lot.
Yes.
In that league, a lot.
That guy's built like a safety.
Oh,
every time he got near someone, they fell over.
I totally agree. I don't understand that either. Because
Well, we got this guy Ray Lewis. He's pretty good, but and he, what? No one can run the ball against him. But let's play him one game and see what happens in our NFL season.
Greg Raber, thank you so much for taking time to be on this program. John Boa, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you're on the other side of the grave. I was looking so forward to this, just to see you and hear you, and your comments thoroughly enjoyed.
1 foot in the grave, 1 foot on the pedal, Greg.
All right.
Yeah. Just like Tom Petty said.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
We'll do this again. We'll do it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we have to do it again sooner rather than later, though.
Yes, I agree.
We have to get together more often for these because
I'm available.
Honestly, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Boa,
Well, I'll tell you.
hold it. John Boa, are you going to be available in the future?
I'm available, baby.
Okay.
Set
right.
down a Sunday night, and I'm your guy.
Okay.
Okay.
The big question, Bone, is what shirt are you going to wear next?
I already got it picked out, EV. Can't tell
All right.
Oh,
Okay.
you already have it
Sounds
picked
good.
out. I have one that you're going to have to wear.
you. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I have one that you're going to have.
Do you have a bet? Do you guys have a bet?
No.
Okay.
No, we only bet food.
Okay. That's
I would like to say one thing.
Ryan, you're winning.
Since we're talking about shirts, our band Pele is on his deathbed, so I
Yes.
wore my Pele that we never made ski thing with number 10 on it. But best wishes to Pele. He was a really good soccer player.
He was pretty good.
He was really good.
Yeah.
The
The other thing too is, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Kevin Payne passed Sunday night, and he truly was a guy who had, a foot on the field and a foot in the office, and was a good soccer business guy. And I rag on MLS all the time, but he was one of the guys that really helped build that league. And through some dark years when it looked like they wouldn't make it. And he was a good friend of Hank's, and one of those guys that you'd see at the convention, and he'd always make time for you. So rest in peace, Kev.
Yeah. One last thing here, because I don't think a lot of our viewers know this, EV. So transparency is always best. So John Boa worked for the company Pele Sportswear and did an outstanding job, by the way, in my opinion, taking that company out of nothing, making some pretty damn good product. So just point that out.
Absolutely.
And saw Pele at the 94 World Cup in LA, which was cool. Shook my hand, and then walked into a tent and saw George Best covered in vomit. So you had the juxtaposition of Pele and George Best within 10 seconds of each other.
And you know what both of those guys did?
Scored goals.
They scored goals.
Ding, ding,
They
ding,
scored
ding.
goals. Ding, 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 ding. They scored goals.
That's the moral of the story for this
That's right.
episode, y'all.
That's what
They
the sport's
scored
about.
goals. Argentina scored more goals
That's right.
than
right.
France, and that's what made the difference. So,
And so is everybody going to be able to get off Friday afternoon to watch Liverpool-Leicester?
I mean,
Yeah, probably.
yes,
What a great time of the year.
It is, dude.
Oh, man.
lots of matches.
And one of
to
our
watch.
boys, Whitney Gibson, saw 2 Boxing Day matches yesterday. So
I still
we
have
saw-
to catch up and watch yesterday's, so one of
Well,
mine
he was
is
at
going to
him.
happen after this.
Was he really?
So-
Yeah, he was at Arsenal, and who else was he at, Raves?
I think I don't know. We sent the videos. I was in the
There
frozen.
were a lot of games in London, and he was talking Chelsea
He was-
or Arsenal or something.
He was at an afternoon game, and he was at a night game.
I was building kids' toys, man. I don't know where he was. I was trying to keep him.
Yeah.
I was putting
One of the
together-
games was Arsenal, but I don't know what the other one was.
Well,
And they feel like
heard it
feel
here
level.
first. Yeah. You heard it here first. Arsenal, Spurs, and Newcastle are in for a rude awakening in the next 6 weeks
Yes,
because this is big boy time now.
it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yep.
So I do have one fun photo to share from the match yesterday,
Oh boy.
from the Nottingham Forest match. Look very carefully at the stocking cap. Greg, you might know who this, like what school this is. Check this out.
All right.
And Raber, you might too. You might.
Soccer Village,
No.
UAF? Atlantic?
UAF.
No. University of Findlay.
That's what I thought.
Finley Oilers, Ohio.
Ohio?
That was at
All
the
right.
yes. So at the match yesterday, the Manchester United match, the Finley Oilers hat made its appearance.
All right.
I just moved to Ohio a year ago. I'm still learning. Sorry.
Well, it'll be okay. I mean, we like the Indy 11 chair behind you, so I have a.
Oh boy, I could spend an hour talking. About
yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to chat at some point about that. I was a former Indy 11 season ticket holder, so and have some good friends from the club. So
We know a guy that played there.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we
All
do.
right, EV, take us home here.
All right, guys. Well, as always, thanks for joining us, you guys, and for our 12 listeners out there, thanks for joining this week.
EV, we got to interrupt. So, Ryan,
Okay.
what are we at? What are we at with Van Taylor?
oh goodness,
68?
let me check real fast because it's changed. We're at 170 listens and views to the Van Taylor episode on YouTube.
How about that, EV?
Van Taylor played against
So-
two.
Pele.
Pele.
And he scored goals.
Nope. Van Taylor was a goalkeeper.
The goalkeeper.
Pele scored on Van Taylor.
Pele scored on Van Taylor.
Pele scored goals.
He was a goalkeeper.
All right, so we got more people than we think, so maybe we have to try to do a better job. So, okay, well, guys, thanks for everything. May the ground beneath your dive be soft. May your goalposts be 3 feet wide, and may the other team always shoot right at you. These are the 3 old goalies signing off. Good night, Captain. We love you.